work for you in those
Oh yeah.
instances.
Oh yeah. Totally.
So now we know like you are at this stage in your career, but it all had to come from somewhere. So let's work our way backwards a bit. What first got you started with music? Like, where did you fall in love with music? What took you on your path?
Well, my whole family's in music. As songwriters in New Jersey, I grew up, and I remember we would go to family events, and there was more guitars than there were people in the family event. Like we would go to, a house, and there'd be like, 9 guitars, and there'd be like only 8 of us. I mean, that's really how I grew up. So it was everyone was in music. Nobody made any money in music, but everybody could like you sing a song and there'd be 5-part harmony everywhere you go. Like that's just how I grew up. My mom was a singer. I remember, in New Jersey, she would be practicing her scales all day, every day. She'd be singing all the time in the car, everywhere. And she's a smart businesswoman, and she got into music to cure her leukemia, like she said. So for me, it was a big spiritual connection with music very early on. I really made the connection to music was strong on a lot of different levels. But I watched people not have any success in business of it. So that was what took me a while to finally get my head wrapped around the idea that actually I can be really, really successful in music financially as well. But I knew that I was going to be really, really good at music early on because I would dedicate myself 4 or 5 hours a day to playing that guitar, and I slept with the guitar because the reason why I slept with the guitar was because I wanted to wake up in the morning and the first thing I wanted to do, like, the time it would have took to open the case and bring out the guitar, like that was a big deal. I thought, no, every second I got to be with this guitar. And then that morphed into opening up my voice, and then that morphed into writing songs, and it all stemmed from like an very, very intense desire that was really all I wanted. Like I didn't really want anything else but to be so good at music. Like so it was just, I dived early into music, and when all my friends were like out, not all my friends, but when a lot of my friends were out performing and stuff, like I was just literally spending hours and hours and hours every day focusing on getting good at music theory, different styles of music, pop, blues, jazz. I was just like studying until about like 20. So then all my friends that are now, they didn't make it with the bands, they were like, "Oh, you play music, Chase? I didn't know." I was like, "Yeah, well, I was like, studying my whole life, and now I'm 20, and now I'm in Europe, and I'm performing all over the place." Yeah, it wasn't about the money, it really wasn't. And if it is about the money, then I think that you're kind of in it for the wrong reasons because, when I listen to specific songs, like I can think the Moonlight Sonata from Beethoven, Symphony Number 9 from Beethoven. When I listen to All of Me, John Legend, when I listen to some of the stuff from the Beatles, when I listen to some of the stuff from, even hip hop from the 90s that I love, I just get super, super inspired. And I got so inspired at one point. I remember like the moment, I remember where I was sitting, and I told myself nothing is more important than being able to write. I was crying. I was like thinking to myself, my whole life, if I dedicate myself to the creation of music, and I'm gonna inspire people the way that I'm being inspired right now by this song, then my life will be worth it.
Got you. So, as far as like the professional aspect, like how did you get those tours in Europe? Was it just connections that your family had, or was it like you working those connections? How did that happen? Did you start in Europe whenever you were first touring?
Yeah, I think that changing your circumstances around you can be really, really helpful. And I was in LA. I wasn't doing anything of worth. It's a really expensive city. You know, my music wasn't doing anything. I was really talented, but I didn't have any connections and anything like that. And then I got a gig in London. It's no big deal type of gig, but I got a gig in London as a guitarist in the studio. And then I brought myself out to London. That was like a couple weeks, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna I'm 20 now or 19 or whatever, and I'm gonna go out to London and I'm just gonna do that. So I lived out there, with a girl, and then I got a couple of gigs in Norway on music. I got a couple of gigs in France on music. So I was just scraping by every paycheck, but at least I was garnering connections, learning how to speak to people, learning new languages. We spent a long time in Italy, and that's where I created a band in Italy, and we toured, and we got on the radio there, and we produced like 3 albums in studios all over Italy. Then I got gigs in Africa that were paid really well. Yeah, so but it was this constant like scraping by the whole time I was in Europe, but it was extremely good for me to be able to learn how to communicate with people in a really, really great way, because that's a universal thing. No matter where you are in the world, like nobody laughs or cries with an accent, So, learning Italian, learning French, learning how to talk to people that you don't know their language was really useful. Then I got a couple of gigs in Revlon through connections that I was garnering in Europe. And that brought me back to LA, and I told myself, okay, now I really need to be here and be in LA and stick it out and try to get more connections in TV and film and radio and stuff like that. So
Was it just like hustling that got you the connections? Was it just doing more shows? Like, how did you start to find the better paying shows?
yeah, I mean, as you know, connections are so important. And what's funny is that I think the main thing, what most people think about connections, their whole like thought process is incorrect. Like, they think, oh, what can I get out of this? What can I get out of this person? What can I get out of them? And that's like they're just wrong way to go about it. So like I notice a lot of artists that come in and they're like, oh, you have so many connections. Why don't you hook me up with one of them? Like that's the immediate thought process is, how do I get, and that's, you're not going to attract great people. You have to think, how do I give to these people? So, and also I'm a real believer that the connections that you have right now speak very, very highly about you, where you are. And if you want to, if you want to create a dream team, which, we all do, we all say we want to create a dream team, right? And then you look around and you treat those people like they're not it. Now there's a problem, because you are who you associate with, as you know, and you got to treat the people around you like they are it. I remember not that long ago, a couple weeks ago, I was in a session with this artist, and she's very, very talented. She's paying me what I asked. We're focusing on her music. She got all the right ingredients to become the next like Ariana Grande. She's perfect. And I'm in there. I'm working with this producer that I've worked with the past 6 months, back and forth in New York, here, and we're working on everything together. And he hadn't slept in like a week, and he said, I need to go take a ride. And I was focusing on the girl, and he said that, and I was like, hey man, I know you don't got a car. I mean, he was only out here for a few days. So I said to him, take the keys to my Prius, take the keys to my Lexus, and if I had a Ferrari, I would give you the keys to my Ferrari. And I really, really, really meant that, because, he's not perfect, but he's got, we're pitching to some huge artists together. But what I'm trying to get at is that, like, you just give to who you have in front of you now. Start acting like they already are who you want them to be, and you'll probably bring out something better in them, and then you'll be able to practice, being with the kind of people that you think you want to be with. The people that are the connections you want to garner. Like if you start acting like you already have those connections, you start treating those people like that. I remember being in the studio with Janae Sewell, who wrote Empire State of Mind, and I remember thinking to myself, this is the kind of moment that people fucking dream of, and I've only got here by practicing with people who don't have anywhere near as much talent as her. But now that I practiced, right, I remember trying to write hits with people that will never write hits, right? And learning how to write hits with people that never will be able to. Like that brought me into the studio where I'm actually writing the girl who's writing the hits of our generation. I'm ready now, because so yeah, that's the main thing. I'm really, really good with people, because I try to treat everybody with the kind of respect that, like, I want to be around people that inspire me. So if I'm not inspiring to them, then I'm looking into myself and be like, okay, Chase, well, what about this? Is that, why is this wrong? What if because you never know. You can't sleep on anybody, man. Like Janae Sewell told me that. She was like, you cannot sleep on anybody. Nobody knows. And it's true. I remember Billie Eilish is my cousin. I remember going to like lunch with her family all the time, and nobody thought. She was the one in the room. She was like, 13, 14. Nobody thought she was going to be the next, like, Beyonce. I remember, hanging out with people that now are producing with One Republic, and they were like 21 and just like nerdy and then like not cool at all, never got the girl, and now they got like mansions in Hollywood. You just don't know in this business who's going to be those connections that you think are the connections that are going to open the door. And if you're always focusing on trying to get those connections that are already open the door, well, you might miss out, because in fact you definitely will miss out, because it never looks the way that you think it's going to look.
Yeah, I think just the general rule that you were talking about, treat everybody with the same respect, that'll just take you far. A lot of the times if you have a friend right now who's really talented, but they don't have the social media numbers, it doesn't mean you don't give them time. Of course, you prioritize your time around some. Yes, if you have a connection available, then take it. But just the mantra of just treat everybody, love your neighbor as yourself. And like, that's just going to take you far.
Totally. Yeah. No, I understand, the other part of this conversation is that you got to make sure that you don't give away your energy to people that are not good for you. And I totally get that. But on the other side of that, like, for whatever reason, they are the people that are around you, and what about them has brought them into your life. I remember, Omari, I used to have people in my life who were working with the biggest bands in the country, and they never let me in to their cool group. I was always on the outskirts, and it was always like, how come? I was always asking myself, like, what did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? And it wasn't like I don't think I did anything wrong. It's just that they weren't my tribe. They were just on the way up. I was, there's nothing wrong. It's some people are not your tribe, There's no reason or rhyme for it. It's just that, when you find your tribe, you know it. And now I have found my tribe, and I feel like we're pitching to, like I said, the top, and we're working with artists together, and I give them the keys to every car I have. That's the kind of thing that I finally have now. But yeah, it's funny how things just happen. You gotta be nice to people, man. It's so important.
Absolutely. So, like, we've heard your story and your journey now. Where do you see yourself going, let's say 6 months, a year in the future? What marketing plans are you going to try to implement to help grow your career?
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm producing another album now with a really, really talented producer, and the idea is to just focus on, hit type material that will be universally loved, inspiring music from a production level as well, because, my last album, Make Me Come Alive, I love the sound of live guitars. I miss it. I feel like I'm at home explaining to you what my life was like early on. Like, I love listening to acoustic guitars. But when people listen to acoustic guitars nowadays, they immediately think that's country, or they immediately think that that's like something old. But I'm writing pop songs. If you just look at look at the song, look at the melody of my last album, you're gonna, it's pop. And if some huge remixer takes one of those songs on, then they would be, potentially pop hits. So I'm focusing on, from a production point of view, giving that sound, the now and future sound through my next album, rather than focusing primarily on the writing and making sure the production is at the same level. And by January, I want to be, releasing a music video every month at really high level, with a completely new direction of sound. But I wanted to show the world that I really am the kind of songwriter who can pick up an acoustic guitar, no auto tune, and blow you away. Like I really, really, really wanted to show the world that that's what I am.